just because I wouldn't be doing my job as like, oh, actually Trek knowledge, but this is the most cursed actually I'll ever fucking give on this show. But I do believe in the original series, Abraham Lincoln says a version of the N-word.
Okay, wait. I don't know where to start. I don't know where to start. I don't know where to start the track. I don't know where to start your track. Start your track. Hello, welcome to the third official episode of Starter Trek. I'm Tawny Newsome. I play Mariner on Lower Decks. I was one of the writers for Starfleet Academy, and I used to host a Star Trek podcast called The Pod Directive. I am here with my co-host, Andrew. Hi, Andrew.
Hello.
We used to host a racism podcast, and it stressed us out. We did it for many, many years.
Yep.
And then in our subscription website, Suboptimal Pods, we were reviewing Star Trek, and we said, let's do the fun thing on Maine. And so here we are.
Well, you know what, though? We are kind of baking, I don't know, the broccoli into, we're doing the thing where parents chop up vegetables and put it in chocolate cake or whatever the hell they do. Listen, I don't...
Mac and cheese. Zucchini brownies, I hear a lot of millennial mothers be doing.
Don't let me have a child. My point is, also, one of the conceits of when we're doing this as a premium show, it remains a conceit now. I don't know jack shit about Star Trek. I'm like a person who is the average viewer of sci-fi, which is that I watched Star Trek when I was stoned and it was on in syndication. So I've seen stuff, but I don't remember really any of it, and I don't know why. And Jesse and Tawny know, from where I sit, everything about Star Trek. So this is sort of my education.
You know more than you realize you know, and it's very funny to uncover the weird little things you know. But to fill in those gaps of the things that you don't know, that I don't know, and that you definitely don't know, is our wonderful producer, Jesse Earl. Hi,
Hello.
Jesse.
I am here to fill in the Star Trek gaps. I was going to say I'm here to fill in the gaps, but then I realized I should not phrase it that way.
We can phrase it however we want. That's the thing about being an independent pod, which is a lovely segue to a thank you to all of our incredible Suboptimal subscribers. If you're new to us, basically, Andrew and I have been podcasting independently for like 6, 7, 8 years now. And it's really been our fans and supporters who have kept us going, who have allowed this pod to come to be. So if you would like to check out what we have going on over there, you can find it at suboptimalpods.com. You will also, maybe most important to the listeners of this, you will find the old episodes of Starter Trek where Andrew and I didn't have Jesse, and we were just kind of guessing and fucking around and not researching anything. But there's some gems in there. Just you needed the caveat, but there's some gems. Yeah. So yeah, we didn't know
as much, but it was fun and rough and weird, and it's still there.
Yeah.
Also, I think I'm going to say this here just to hold us to it, which is Tawny and I are gonna do a kind of not watch along, but we're gonna talk about 28 years later, Bone Temple, because I have not seen it yet, and Tawny loves it, and we'll kind of keep the not horror sci-fi kind of talk going on Suboptimal Pods.
Yeah, so go subscribe to that. Creation Trek to Vegas is coming up. That is the annual Star Trek convention in Las Vegas. It is so much fun. Jesse, how many years do you think you've been to it?
I've only actually, I think, been to 2. I've been to many, many Star Trek cons, but Vegas only twice.
Really?
Yeah, surprisingly enough. It's a great con, though. Yeah.
It's really fun. And it's Vegas, so it's just like, hey, I'm speaking Andrew's language.
Don't. I that's my worst energy. My absolutely worst energy is Vegas, Andrew. So...
But what about Vegas mixed with Star Trek, Andrew? What I'm saying is you need to come to the con.
Is that why you like Quark so much?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. He's basically just Vegas.
Vegas Trek. It does occur to me, I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it to this one, but it does occur to me that going to a con should be something we cover on this show. That'll be the ultimate Starter Trek for me. Yeah.
Perhaps we even do a live from the con, I'm just going to stick a microphone on you and shove you out into the crowd and see what we get back.
Yeah. Let me just
let the Trekkies
see what I can remember. Yeah, I know some of it. I feel like I'm like a character who has sort of fairly selective amnesia. Like a lot of stuff looks familiar to me, but I'm just like, couldn't tell you.
To be fair, most Trekkies at any con are super welcoming. Like they will be like, you don't know this thing? Let me just like dump all of my thoughts about it on you right now. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, I'm ready. Okay.
You'll make a lot of friends.
This is good. This is all real programming decisions that we are making and announcing live just off the top of the dome.
That's literally how we've podcasted for nearly a decade, Andrew. I don't know why you're surprised at all.
But Jesse was supposed to pull us into a new professional era, and it is not Jesse that's not doing it. It is us dragging her down into whatever soup we came from.
We're dragging you into that soup that Riker fed his non-binary girlfriend.
Yes, exactly. The bisexual pea soup.
No, that's good soup. Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't complaining about it. I was having some pea soup earlier today because I am also bisexual. It's what we do.
100 degrees out and you're eating soup. You're not beating the allegations.
Oh, no. This is great. This is the one thing now Jesse and I can team up with against Tawny, which is hot outside. Have some soup.
Yeah. Have some nice hot soup with your like 90-degree heat.
Speaking of things to eat, sure. The whole reason I brought up STLV or Creation Trek to Vegas, apologies, is that I'm going to be at a dinner with my friends, the Sci-Fi Sisters. They're hosting a dinner. It's going to be super fun. They do it for their Patreon supporters, like a big thank you dinner every year, and it's all catered and there's drinks and it's very fancy. So if you're going to be at STLV, that dinner, they're opening up a number of seats to support my indie film collective that I've been posting about if you've been following me on socials. It's called Fine Alpinist Ranch. Anyway, the link to register for the dinner, we're going to put in the show notes, but it's going to be on Friday, August 7th. It's going to be at the Gold Coast Hotel. But yeah, go check out that link and register and sign up. It supports my little film collective. It supports the Sci-Fi Sisters. It's Star Trek. It's dinner. It's Vegas. The end.
Listen, it sounds great. It's all great things. I am genuinely working to get my schedule worked out to try to go to this weekend.
You gotta come.
I'm gonna try. I'm genuinely trying.
Let us get into a little bit of episode talk. I'm so excited for this episode this week. Jesse, I know last week you said that you were super excited.
I'm so pumped. I've literally taught a class on this episode, how much I love it. Yeah, I did.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to get to it, but when we get to Jesse's log supplemental, I'm so looking forward to everything you have to say about this and everything you bring to this pod with like your knowledge and just your attention to detail and your love of everything. I do have a thing I want to talk about that I'm gonna wager something. This episode has been talked about to death by people far smarter than me. I'm going to wager that I'm going to talk about something that no one has ever spoken about. But first, I'm going to tell you what it is. We watched Deep Space Nine, Far Beyond the Stars, Season 6, Episode 13, directed by the one and only Avery Brooks. It originally had a story by Mark Scott Zicree, and the teleplay was written by Ira Stephen Bear and Hans Beimler. It originally aired the 11th of February, 1998. And I told you guys about this. I told AJ about it. I made a needle drop finally. Here we go. I really wanted this, so I just made it myself.
Welcome to the Rasmussen, where the players play. And Professor Berlinghoff Rasmussen is like every day.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you. I just want to pause for a minute and talk about the lyrics. Welcome to Rasmussen's, where the players play. Where the Berlinghoff Rasmussens like every day. And I just think that's beautiful.
That was much. It's so different hearing the pitch for that and hearing it.
Because it was beyond your wildest dreams. It was so
kind of
good.
was, yeah. It genuinely was. I think it's the actual like cadence of the Trek lines is so funny. Oh,
I know now I'm going to rewatch that episode and just imagine whenever like Rasmussen's shuttle lands or he enters a room, that's going to play in my mind from now on.
You're just going to hear Jermaine Dupri going, yo.
Exactly. Yeah.
Can I
It's so good.
back up before we get to Rasmussen's? I actually have a general Trek production question, which is that Trek, and this is something I probably could have asked at a different time because it happens a lot. This is a show that has so many more story buys that are not the teleplays written by. Wow, that sentence. While it communicated what I was trying to say, was not strictly speaking English. Why is that a thing? Is that a Trek thing? Is that a drama thing that I don't know about?
No, so it was an interesting thing that Trek, especially during the like 90s era, did, where they accepted submissions from just fans. Which was like a big thing, and this wasn't completely unique to Star Trek, but they did continue it longer than most shows because nowadays you really can't do that at all.
No.
But back in the day, they would just like they would need so many scripts to be like, we don't know, we can't fill this many episodes of Star Trek, so that people would just send them in, and they would just go into like a slush pile, and then every so often they would like randomly look through them and be like, all right, we need an episode, see if there's a good one in here. And then they'd pull them out and see which ones they like. And that went on, I think, all the way until Voyager. I think they started stopping that around Enterprise in the early 2000s. So it went on longer than most shows would do something like that.
That is so wild.
Yeah.
Now, not only do they not accept freelance scripts or story pitches anymore, now Star Trek writers are prohibited from consuming any fan content whatsoever.
Yeah.
So that there is no like accidental...
Yeah.
Hey, I saw this and then you stole it, which was very stressful for me as someone going to cons the entire time I was in the writer's room. Just trying to avert my gaze and not really absorb too much of anybody's like original cool ideas because, you know,
that's so
the fans have been pitching on Star Trek storylines for
so
years.
In this instance, Mark Scott, is it Zikri?
Yep, Zikri. Yep.
Zikri. Was this person a fan, or it's just that sometimes the story buys were like fans or just outside pitches?
So I actually don't know.
No, he was in the room.
Okay. Yeah, this one has a unique history though, but yeah, he was in the room.
Got it. Okay, yeah. This is just something that almost every episode we do, I'm like, I should ask about this because it's from a like TV writer perspective seems very odd.
I also think it happened more in the 90s, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah,
because didn't you get more money or something for it? Like the way that the WGA was structured back then was just different.
Yeah, and there was like things you could do where you could like go in and pitch stories. So it was like there would just be a show, and then you'd set up a meeting with whoever the showrunner was or whoever would take the meeting with you, and then you just pitch like, here's my 6 story ideas, and then it'd be like, all right, we'll call you back, and maybe they take one, maybe they take none. So yeah.
I'll tell you who could definitely answer this question, Andrew. If you come to Star Trek Vegas, is Mark Scott Zikri. He'll be there.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Let's corner him and ask the question.
Yeah, I know, but it's definitely not a him specific thing. It is just one of those things where I was like, oh, I have noticed this almost every episode we've done, and I've been like, huh.
Yeah, like some of the big names got got into Trek that way, and then got into shorting, like Ronald D. Moore, who's famous now for Battlestar Galactica and For All Mankind and in Outlander, I think. He was just like a fan of Star Trek, wrote a script, and then his girlfriend, I think at the time, was like, oh, I can get you a tour of the Paramount lot. And he's like, okay, I'll do a tour of the Paramount lot, and brought along a script with him. And then I think he gave it to like a security guard. And the security guard handed it in.
I should stop you a
little
little bit, Jesse, and say that every story of the entertainment business pre-2009 makes me so angry.
Right? Oh, trust me. I know.
Literally
it all sounds a little bit like the movie Blank Check. It's like, oh yeah, he was just wandering around the Paramount lot and he found a check for $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
Well, So talking about the story by being different, I noticed on our little running order here segues nicely into Jesse's Rasmussen.
Yeah.
Jesse, would you like to take it away?
Yeah, this is just a quick one on this one. So the original pitch for this episode was one that Zachary did, I think, for the 5th season of Deep Space Nine, where it was originally centered on Jake Sisko going back in time to the 50s, meeting a bunch of writers, and asking him questions like about the future. And then the big reveal of the episode was turned out to be aliens who just wanted to learn more about humanity. And Ira Steven Behr, who was the showrunner, he didn't like the idea. He thought it was too gimmicky, and like Star Trek had done like things like that before. So he kind of put it aside, but he liked the idea of like a bunch of 1950s sci-fi writers. So he brought it back up, and I think it was him as well who decided to tie it to the idea of racism as the main theme, and then sent it, which was, I think this was not the typical way to do this, but he sort of sent it to Zachary again to sort of like help shape the story. And then they wrote it from there. And then the other element of this too is that Avery Brooks directed this episode, and they were very concerned about that initially, just because Avery Brooks is so present in the episode. He's the main character of the whole thing.
Yeah. Or every scene, I mean.
Yeah, so it's difficult to direct yourself, especially when you're alone on set. There's a lot of scenes where it's just him. But they decided, because they really wanted to make sure that someone who understood the impact of racism and really could speak from an authentic place on that was the one directing the episode. So they did, and he did a fucking amazing job. So yeah, it was great. But it also probably, to a degree, also speaks to the fact that they didn't have as many black directors on the show, which is someone to know. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think LeVar
Worked in Avery's favor.
Burton was another one, and a few others, but still a thing.
Yeah, pretty atypical, because any of the like number one actor directed episodes of Trek, it feels like they tended to not be in the episode as much. The episodes themselves are escaping me, but I feel like anytime I see, oh, Patrick Stewart directed this, or I would go, oh, it's because he barely shows up in it.
Yes.
So this was pretty intensive to be like, directing it and in every scene. I believe Michael Dorn talked about how hard Avery worked to get the look right. It was like directing a movie. It's like he had to do a 1 hour feature film.
Yeah.
Making sure everything felt period specific, and making sure there were all these little homages and touches to black writers, to pulp writers of the time.
But also with like a crew, presumably. I'm presuming they didn't, get in a whole new crew just for this special episode. So like who are mostly doing gray corridors and alien stuff. So like, and shooting them in a certain way, and none of that is like true for this. So it's like on top of that, on top of like directing an episode that you're acting in so much, it's also like having to do more original directing. Again, sorry, and no disrespect to TV directors, but I think what I'm saying makes sense, which is
more of a departure from the norm of that show.
Yeah, I mean, even if it's not an insult to say like this is on different sets, different looks, different everything, so it makes sense to be like, this is a challenge on top of that, and then on top of directing yourself in so many scenes and it being a very emotional episode.
Yeah. It was also a night shoot, which was uncommon for Trek, because they were always on the ship and they could make anything look like night, I assume. So I think that was pretty rare to have an all night, a lot of nights in the episode. But yeah. So my welcome to Rasmussen. Look, I am obsessed with this episode. I love it so much. I think it's so beautiful. And I love a passing narrative. I have always loved passing narratives. The hallmarks of a passing narrative, if people don't know, are basically, they typically tend to be about race, but they can be about socioeconomic things too. But it's about a character passing as something else in order to gain access or privilege or opportunity. And I love them because when they're done well, the exploration of the struggle between performance and authenticity, that like stressful psychological load of having to like deceive and pretend in public but then take the mask off when you go home, I think lends itself to some of the most beautiful acting, incredible storytelling about how we perceive race. Some like notable ones, Nella Larsen's 1929 novel, literally called Passing. They made a Netflix movie out of it a few years ago that I watched part of, and it was fine. I did not finish it, not because I didn't like it, but because I was busy. But there's also An Imitation of Life, which is a film that I watched over and over in my like Black film studies class, and there's I think 3 different remakes of it. It's incredible. So this story is a story of implicit passing or enforced passing, because Benny Russell can't change his appearance, but what he is being forced to do is conceal his appearance. So it's like passing by omission, right? And I can't talk about a passing narrative and I can't talk about sci-fi without talking about my absolute favorite sci-fi movie, Gattaca. That's right.
Oh.
That's right. I'm talking about Ethan motherfucking Hawke, Jude Law, Uma Thurman in the incredible written and directed by Andrew Niccol 1997 film Gattaca, which came out 3 months before this episode aired. And I never realized that because I was like a teenager and, wasn't thinking about those things. But Gattaca and this episode have been so present in my lexicon of things I love. And to realize that they came out so close together. If you don't know Gattaca, have you guys seen Gattaca?
I have seen Gattaca. It's been a while, but I loved Gattaca when I saw it.
I fucking love Gattaca. Everybody go back and rewatch it. I think it's an incredible, weird, great sci-fi piece. It's basically like a eugenics-driven society where certain people called invalids aren't allowed to get great jobs. Have we ever heard of this before?
What a weird sci-fi scenario.
I know, what a weird scenario. It kind of reminds, I know, it's very like, it's very Handmaid's Tale, where it's just like, imagine if people were slaves, and we're like, yeah, no, we know.
It's the type of thing that Elon Musk watched like the first 15 minutes of it, was like, this is a great, I could do this.
Yeah, he took Act 1 of Gattaca and said, "Great idea."
The Torment Nexus. You ever hear that? It's like, oh, I've decided to make the Torment Nexus from the great novel "Don't Make the Torment Nexus."
It's really that.
Yeah.
But basically, Ethan Hawke, as the main character, is doing literal passing. He's literally taking, this is not a spoiler, he's using Jude Law's DNA and identity in order to gain access to the Gattaca aerospace company or corporation so that he can be an astronaut, basically. And it deals with all of that stuff that I love from all of the passing stories that I mentioned before. It deals with the psychological burden, the isolation. It even deals with the tragic mulatto trope a little bit. And I know these are white people, and I know we're watching like 3 of the whitest, most beautiful actors in 1997 do this thing that was usually reserved historically for Black and brown people. But I remember feeling seen. I remember watching it and going, oh, this is about Black people. Oh, this is about any caste system. This is about any second-class citizens. And it felt like a way to make a weird sci-fi studio movie that talked about race, but actually get your movie made because you could put Jude Law in it instead of Black people in 1997. I don't know if that's what was going on, but as a teen and like, I've always identified with it because of those reasons.
Was that
and
a connection that you made, like referring to it as a passing narrative, like at the time?
Well, once I knew what a passing narrative was, probably in college or something, I went, oh, that's why I like Gattaca, because I probably watched An Imitation of Life or something and went, oh, that's what they're doing here. This trope has a name, or this storytelling conceit has a name.
Got it.
But I just think it's so fascinating that this episode basically does covert or proximal passing, where Benny, he's writing under his own name, but he's unable to show his face. They don't want the public to know who's actually doing it. The same thing for Kay Eaton, for Kira's character. They don't want people to know she's a woman. So there's this like enforced proximal passing from these people who wish that they actually just could be their full selves. And then and in Gattaca, it was literally like, I got to pass so that I can be an astronaut. And I just think it's wild that these things came out 3 months apart. And it made me wonder what was going on in 1997. For me, it was my pants were becoming rapidly too short, and I needed my mom to buy me new ones all the time.
Yeah. Well, the pants were also only getting bigger, right, in that year.
The pants were getting bigger, but then there were also like bell bottoms coming back. I was expected to understand how to navigate a bell bottom at 14.
Yeah.
It wasn't a good look.
Yeah.
But so it made me think about the Human Genome Project, because that was like rapidly happening. And that was like they were mapping the human DNA, and it was like sparking all these fears, all these like Gattaca style fears of, high-tech corporate eugenics, basically.
Right.
And I just wonder if there was it's just interesting because all of that was in the air along with this episode coming out in Black History Month. I don't know. So there's just all kinds of shit in the air that means that Gattaca and Far Beyond the Stars were like uniquely coded to be 100% my shit. And I just think everyone needs to watch them back to back in a movie night, I guess.
If I could throw out my most, listen, we're back. We're gonna do 2 minutes of Yo, is this racist?
Fucking let's go.
Which is that like I kind of wonder if the like prevalence of like basically as DNA is being mapped, as the human genome is being mapped, I think one upshot of it is that in absolute data terms, humanity is starting to see more and more that people are not that different, like especially with things like race. Like there's just like really not that much separating us on a like genetic, physical, like molecular level, I guess, essentially. Like, which is all to say, without being like too like looking for racism everywhere, I kind of wonder if all of these things that are like, can be read certain ways. But one of the ways, the sinister way to read this is like, oh, so it's not really about DNA anymore. It's really about the character and content of the character type thing. But in the sinister way, it's because it's like, and see, look at all these white men on top. That must mean that white men's character is somehow superior. Sorry, this is that is Yosef Racist Andrew is back for 2 minutes.
Oh, you're allowed. Yeah. You're allowed to be Yo, is this Rasmussen's?
But anyway, sorry. So I'm just wondering, like, that's the most cynical version of why all these like not like passing narratives. The reasoning wouldn't be passing narratives. It's more just like, see, like your DNA can be overcome. Like it's sort of like that's the darkest version. The most cynical version of Gattaca is it's a bootstraps, like sort of libertarian narrative.
Well, it is a little bit. I'm so sorry to say. Everyone watch it. Everyone. I don't want to spoil.
But that's what I mean. Okay. Anyway, that's all I'm trying to say is like my most like cynical hat version of why these might have been in the atmosphere is this kind of like, oh, once like white guys realized, oh, we can't really use like DNA as like, the facts didn't conform with their feelings, they had to like create like a different other reason why they were on top.
Yeah, it kind of broke down this eugenic sort of pseudoscience narrative that had been used for so many years, and it was just like, now we go with like capitalism, which is the risk takers, like the sort of Reagan era, like we need the risk takers and the individuals to like lift themselves off the bootstraps, and wouldn't you know, it just happens to be white people. Ignore the like decades and centuries of systemically disenfranchising people that caused it to be mostly white people. It's just white people are the better, are best. None of this DEI shit.
Anyway, sorry, but just to throw that out there.
No, but something I just wanted to mention too, Tawny, it's so fascinating. I have never thought about this episode in exactly those terms, but it is very much that, and it's something that relates to queer elements too. Like
take it away, Jesse.
Well, I mean, like bisexual passing. There's so many things with bisexuals are like, oh, they're in what's called straight passing relationships, and people feel like they get their bisexuality erased, which creates complicated feelings for bisexuals, but also is a thing that can be used for safety as well. Same thing was a big conversation within trans communities as well. It's a huge thing within trans communities talking about passing, about like who gets passing privilege, who is like through like people who are able to transition at a younger age, have access to transition stuff, people who choose or want to transition, because some trans people don't, and then who is sort of stereotypically, the gender that they look like, and are you be comfortable with that? Some people choose to not claim that. It's just a constant conversation within trans circles of like, do we want to pass? Should we want to pass? Is it safe to pass? Like, passing is safer, but it also can cause more violence against you if you are discovered, which is a recurring thing for trans people. So it's a constant thing across many marginalized communities, and it's why I mean, I'll talk about it in my own section later on, but I deeply resonate with this episode on many levels, despite it being about race textually, even though I'm white. And it just speaks to how a lot of these things cut across so many marginalized identities, even though they're not always exactly the same, and have their own specific contexts and histories and unique ways that they form. There is something that kind of unites all of us as marginalized people. And what I like about science fiction, to kind of tie it into your Gattaca point, like science fiction is so good for so many marginalized people because it is like, oh, we'll talk about these issues, but in a weird science fiction way, and we are allowed to relate to it in a way that we wouldn't be able to in other stories that don't tell these narratives. And it's what I love about Deep Space Nine, because it was always so critical of like Star Trek used to do this, of like, it's a metaphor with white people in it, but now we're going to make you look right in the face of like, no, this is about Black people, and you need to actually understand that. And I always love Deep Space Nine doing that overt challenge to viewers, being like, I know you love your Gene Roddenberry, what if white people experienced racism too, but now you need to look at like, but it does happen to Black people, and you need to understand that that's what we're talking about here. And I love that. I was hoping that you would talk about the trans experience when it comes to passing, because far be it from me to tell trans people where to see themselves represented, but I'm just saying, if you're trans and you haven't seen Gattaca, maybe take a look, because those white cis people are doing something for Black folks. They're doing something for, like, the story is doing something for us. Just a suggestion. But I mean, that's why exactly what you're describing, you getting so much from this episode, Far Beyond the Stars, you know, queer people watching things that are quote unquote meant for or meant to represent Black people, yet still seeing themselves in it. This is 100% why we're all encouraged to divide against each other and to not see that our struggles are so interlinked, because that creates collective power, is when you can look at Far Beyond the Stars and a trans person can watch Uma Thurman in Gattaca, and everybody kind of feels seen and heard and represented, and we go, oh, these things affect all of us. So it's very clear to me why they want us to not see eye to eye. It was the thing I remember. I'll share this story and then we can talk about the episode. But it was the thing that I remember when I first came out as trans. There was a guy friend of mine I was telling him about how I felt about being trans in my experience, and he kept going. He's like, I could never understand that, but I relate to this. And he did that like 10 times over the course of the conversation. And go, stop saying you can't understand, because you clearly can. Yeah. And it may not be about gender. And I say this in a lot of my own writing, is like, trans people, we experience this dissonance between who we're told to be and who we wish to be and who we seek to be and who we strive to be. And we experience that through gender, which is one of the most overt ways we are segmented in our society. We're segmented to man and woman. It's one of the most obvious ways that our culture does that and says that it's quote unquote natural. But everyone experiences some form of that, of feeling like there's this ideal you're supposed to be, whether it's like, oh, you're supposed to be, you know, the ideal man is some just straight white dude who's like super buff and super tough and like, you know, like gets all the women. And it's like, no one actually lives up to that. And we all feel that sense of alienation from ourselves and our bodies. It's just trans people make it very obvious, because gender is an obvious way in which we naturalize it. And that's where there's so much targeting against us. And it's very similar too with anti-Blackness and many other things. So, yeah.
And speaking only for myself, I am the buffest, toughest dude. And I will not have that taken away from me.
I will say, when they do talk about the ideal person, like all those folks, I do think of you. It is, yeah.
Thank you. I'm very humble. Thank you.
You know, Jesse, you're going to start getting texts about like supplements that are going to take away some of that impression.
I don't do that to you anymore, Andrew. I don't do that anymore to the group thread.
It's just that sometimes you say shit that I'm like, I don't know about this.
Look.
All we're saying is this week we're sponsored by Tawny pills. Get your
one and creatine.
Just put it in your veins.
Inject it right into your veins.
I don't know where any of that stuff goes.
I don't know.
Gattaca, eugenics. It's great.
Gattaca, eugenics, Deep Space Nine. Now watch. I'm sure maybe that parallel has been made before, but I really think I'm the first freak to.
I've never heard it. It's unique. It's a unique one, but it makes total sense. Yeah.
Okay, we are now to the main part of our episode. This is a long one, guys, but I think this episode deserves it because it's incredible. And I'm so enjoying our conversation already. And now I'm really excited to hear what the hell does Andrew think happened?
Here we go. Well, first of all, I will say, because of the labeling, the folks at Paramount Plus, I know it's a tough job, but they did not have the episodes ordered correctly or the labeled correctly. So I watched the cold open of 614, One Little Ship. I took copious notes, and I will just say, here's what I will just say, is that normally Tawny lets me go into these, Tawny and Jesse, but Tawny primarily, lets me go into these utterly cold, because it's just better that way. However, I saw Tawny this weekend, and she pulled me aside and was like, hey, just so you know, this is the... You should just know this because otherwise it's going to like throw off your note taking and you're just going to like focus on this too much, which is true and fair. But she's just like, this is the first, and I think there might be a dispute, but at the time, all we knew was the only instance of the N-word being uttered on Star Trek by Jake. So that is all I knew. And just as a quick recap, the episode I did watch a little bit of called One Little Ship is essentially... Honey, I Shrunk the Kids or sort of version. So I watched a cold open of O'Brien, Bashir, and Dax stressed out because they were like getting shrunk down to like the size of like an inch tall, and I was just like, huh.
How's gonna get the N-word in this? Seems like a weird time for somebody.
I was just like, this just seems like I remember thinking, oh, I guess this makes sense because however they do it, it's going to be wildly inappropriate.
Just O'Brien just pissed off and says the N-word. Is like, whoa, man, no.
Different episode, different chapter. Anyway.
Where does Jake come in and he's like, where all them little end up? Where all them little guys go?
Like, I genuinely was like, well, Tawny was right. This is about to be crazy. So
I wonder why it's a favorite episode. Why are they so excited?
Yeah. So I guess
Paramount Plus, like I cannot think of two crazier episodes to mix up. I cannot think of two crazier ones to accidentally switch. Guys, get your shit together over there.
It's really wild. Anyway, so I watched the cold open of One Little Ship, and then I saw the title screen came up. Mm-hmm. Thankfully, I paid attention because sometimes I don't. So I would have watched quite a bit of it before.
It's a good episode. It's worth watching.
Yeah. So we'll get to that one day. Anyway, so we are in the cold open. Kira is... So this is what I will say. This is my most, as far as cold opens go, my most... I'm just going with this because I do not understand a single thing that's happening. Things are going badly in the Dominion War, which if you listen to our older episodes on Suboptimal Pods, you'll learn Andrew doesn't know jack shit about anything about the Dominion War.
What's interesting, I was going to say, I thought about table setting a little bit of stuff for you, but then honestly, the cold open does a good job. They lost an important ship.
Yeah.
Cisco lost a good friend, and he's contemplating not being in Starfleet anymore.
Yeah.
Like he's at a real all is lost moment. Like it set everything up. So I was like, you kind of don't need to know anything else.
I was excited because I hadn't seen Cisco's dad before, and I did know that the gumbo was on the menu. So I'm a little disappointed that there was not an extended cooking sequence.
Yeah, we'll get you to an episode that's more about the gumbo.
And also, okay, so there's a little bit of discussion about that. That is essentially what Tawny just said. Essentially Cisco's feeling like he might be done. And here's why he starts hallucinating. I wrote down he sees a Nyasi guy on board. Which is, I think, there's a guy in a trilby hat on board. No one else saw it. Cisco's hallucinating. Cisco and is it Cassidy.
Mm-hmm. It is Cassie later, but Cassidy.
I see. Okay. So I don't think I've ever seen Cassidy in anything before.
Mm-hmm.
Probably not.
Okay. So the two of them are walking down the hall. She's a captain of something.
Yeah, she's got a freighter. So she's like she's a cargo girly. She comes and goes. They've been dating for a couple seasons now.
Got it. Okay. He's just like, don't go too near the war zone, which is a little bit paternalistic. I think she could take care of herself, but fair enough. I guess she's like Han Solo.
That's a fair critique from a lot of fans, honestly, is him trying to be protective of her driving through. And it's like, hey, that's her job and it's the future.
Yeah.
To be fair, she also gives him shit for it too at certain points, which I do appreciate about Cassidy.
I guess there's a war going on. There's a war. That's fair.
Andrew, I have a question for you.
Yes.
The man in the trilby, did you recognize him as Rene Auberginois?
I did not recognize fucking anyone.
Cool. Got it. Proceed.
I just wrote Sisko hallucinates a baseball player. I didn't know it was Michael Dorn.
You didn't recognize Worf?
I didn't recognize fucking anyone until the like flashbacks or the hallucination starts flickering. Truly. I guess I recognize Kira.
I will say too, since you just brought him up, just to give this note, Michael Dorn, I think still has the record for most appearances in Star Trek episodes. This is the one and only episode where he appears sans makeup as a human. The only time in, I think, over 200 episodes that he appears in.
Well, this must have been really a great episode for all the actors too, just because like no one has to do prosthetic makeup for much of it.
Except for Armin Shimmerman. There's actually a quote from him saying he was actually stressed about not having to have the Quark mask on his face. Yeah.
Really?
He was actually like, I was used to that, like being this layer on my face that I could rely on to like get into character. So he actually found it stressful.
Fair enough. Well, okay. I have questions about that actually later on, the sort of in character stuff. Because the loose thing is just sort of like, it doesn't seem that they play as close to their Deep Space Nine characters as
no.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. For instance, Worf is a baseball player.
Yep.
Sisko follows him into, I wrote a holodeck ? But it's not a holodeck. But he gets hit by an old timey car. He's in. I'm realizing now I don't know where he is. Is it San Francisco?
It's New York City.
It's
1953 New York.
New York. Did it say that and I just missed it? Okay.
No, I think it might just be implied. They might say it at some point.
Okay. And then the other thing...
I think it's just employed by all the, hey, I'm walking here.
Yeah, no, I think I was just like, Star Trek is always in San Francisco for no reason.
That's a good point.
That was my one thing. I was like, okay, I don't know what's happening. Well, no, also, doesn't Worf have a fucking Giants hat on? Okay.
Does he?
I thought he had a Giants hat. Okay, it doesn't matter. Truly does not matter. I'm sorry. I'm
looking it up.
Not trying to blow this up. Okay. Also, this is the other backstory thing that I genuinely do not know much of, which is I do not know anything about the sort of Sisko Prophet business at all. The only Prophet in Deep Space Nine I care about is Latinum just rolling in. Okay, that's my joke.
Cool.
That's my little joke. So I genuinely don't know anything about the Prophet storyline. So that basically anytime that happened, I will say a little bit, this is my sort of spoiler, is that cold in a vacuum, I do kind of think some of the Prophet stuff takes away for me as a very ignorant person, like some of the impact of the underlying story.
Interesting.
I think it's because we're watching it out of order.
Yeah.
Because if you were watching it in order, you would see this incredibly patient, very long arc of a man of science and a skeptic.
Yeah.
Constantly being told you are actually a man of faith and you're here to save all of us.
Yes.
And you're seeing him slowly start to value that in the best he can. And it's really beautiful.
I feel like I could tell that was happening, but I did not get it. So that was a part that I was just like, I don't know what's happening here. Okay, but so yes.
This is where this sampler platter style show is going to do the greatest Trek to ever be created a little bit of a disservice. And
right.
We're just all going to have to deal with it.
It's the syndication versus like serialized nature of the storytelling. And it is like Trek is syndicated-ish anyway,
but it is interesting to hear. I always like hearing like what do you get out of it having no context.
I think the finale of the episode is a little like it was one of those things that I was sitting here being like, I know I missed it, but in my opinion basically all of the Trek part of this in my opinion, with my knowledge base, detracts from the story. That was sort of my underlying take. But it's also because I know that I don't know shit. So I'm not saying I thought it was bad, but I am saying, okay, I don't get it. And in a way that made me like it slightly less.
To also be fair, like the element of the fact that like the preacher guy keeps saying prophets throughout this episode is like more an allusion to like a similar thing, less so than like a literal, like this is about the actual prophets from Deep Space Nine. It's more just sort of like magical realism.
I had a question about that too. Illusions. Okay, we'll get to that when we come to it. All I wrote down is Sisko's got some backstory about prophets that I forgot about and do not understand. We match cut. Well, we have a second in sickbay where there's also backstory that I don't know about Sisko has had hallucinations in the past. Is that right?
Yeah. So we've seen this before where the prophets literally they kind of body snatch him and take him to their little null space to teach him things or to ask him things or to help or to prevent things. And for, a doctor and for Starfleet officers, this is their captain having, painful visions, having hallucinations.
Yeah.
It's sort of like we're being asked as an audience to look at it as both a possible real thing that is happening and also the hallucination of someone going through an episode.
I guess my question. Okay, so this is like purely a device. So this is like not at all holodeck at all, not at all holodecky. That I grasped. But this is just like a thing that's happened before in Deep Space Nine.
So
sort of.
So yes and no. So just to help frame the episode a little bit, like this sort of like vision thing that this whole episode goes on is unique to this episode. Like there are visions that Sisko does get from the prophets, but they're shot very differently. They're much more like one-off scenes rather than whole episodes. And
he stays himself. Sorry to interrupt you, but I should say he stays Ben Sisko as opposed to this one where he's a different character.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like this episode is very much like magical realism. There's no textual explanation for it. Like the prophets were never given meaning to imply that the prophets like caused this as like an overt thing within the text of the show. This is just a weird thing that happened to Sisko one day. And it's meant to sort of tie that in.
But it's still sort of just like, okay, we have in the past been concerned about Sisko's brain, I guess. Okay. So we go from sickbay, we match cut, he's looking at his like chart on a pad to a sci-fi book, and then we're just kind of in it. We're just like, we're just going. He has a conversation with a newsie. O'Brien walks up all old-timey.
It was Nog.
Yeah.
Is that really?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna say this.
Eisenberg.
I didn't recognize anyone. I you know what? If you need a credulous audience, I am very clearly utterly fooled by all of the prosthetic makeup entirely. I didn't recognize anyone.
Well, you've only seen like 4 episodes of the show, and now we're showing you a crazy episode where everyone's completely out of character.
I guess the people who like basically have their faces, but anyone that has prosthetic, nope. It took me a long time. All right, so we had cold open. He talks to Nog about sci-fi books. O'Brien walks up. I recognize O'Brien. End cold open. We are in Act 1. So another thing that confused me a little bit is because we're in the office, but they are talking about sci-fi, I couldn't tell initially if this was some sort of like maybe Jetsons-y, like neo-futurist 40s.
Like Gattaca?
Yeah.
Future past? What is that called? Retrofuturism?
Retrofuturism?
It is not.
Yeah.
It is actual retro. It is actual past.
Yeah. I just couldn't tell because they were pitching sci-fi sounding things to me, but I couldn't tell if it was just like what they are, which is sci-fi writers, or if they were like, oh, they actually have, I don't know, fucking steampunk robots or whatever in this.
Yeah. It's like they work for like a pulpy Asimov science fiction sort of magazine. Sort of thing.
Okay. That makes sense. Kira's talking about instant iced tea. Bashir, just British as fuck. It's going for it. I wrote in all caps, Quark is a man. Boo. Who is the artist? I'm just going to save myself the embarrassment and ask who is the artist.
That is the actor J.G. Hertzler who played Martok, who is a big, tough, cool-ass Klingon that I don't think you would have had any reason to have seen.
Oh, okay. And here is another diversion question, which is, so they do it with such like blasé confidence that I guess I was like, oh, okay, this actually was the process for how sci-fi magazines in the 40s and 50s worked. But they hand out assignments via this guy's drawings. He just draws a bunch of sci-fi tableaus, and then the writers are responsible for making up a story around it. Could that possibly be how that worked?
What are you talking about? That's how shit works now. People are like, the studio execs are like, well, we've got Mr. Beast and we've got dill pickle flavored protein milk. So somebody write a movie about that.
Oh god.
Yeah, so that's actually how some Star Trek episodes are made. There were like some Star Trek episodes where the original series episodes were made. It's like, hey, I made this weird little alien freak, and then Gene Kuhn would take a bunch of cocaine, go into a room and not come out for 4 days, and then come out with an episode.
Fair enough. Okay.
That's how you do sci-fi back in the day.
I guess as a process, I just had I was just like, this seems so backwards to me. But again, everyone is so unbelievably matter of fact about it. And I kind of like realized by this point that this wasn't like a heightened, weird, unrealistic universe. So I was like, okay, I guess this is how pulp assignments were made. The artist made covers. Yeah, okay. Cisco gets DS9. Very cool. Looks cool in charcoal, presumably.
Yeah, I like the like 50s for like it's very like U.S. military looking sort of thing.
Yeah. It sort of makes it's cool. I really like it. Let's see what else we learned. It's picture day coming up. The editor, who I think I wrote down 20 minutes later, is that Odo.
Yeah,
nice.
Doesn't want the public to know that a woman and a black man are writing stories. Cisco's pissed. Oh yeah, I wrote the words. Is the editor someone I'm supposed to know? 3 question marks. Later that night, Cisco's leaving the office. His drawing blows away. He gets harassed by some racist cops. Are the racist cops Cardassians that we're supposed to know?
Yeah, one's a Cardassian, one's Gul Dukat. You have met him.
Okay.
And the other is Wei Yun. You met him in the Pale Moonlight, which we watched in our older episodes behind the paywall.
Shit.
Which is one thing I really love about the casting of this episode, because those are 2 fascist characters, like 2 different flavors of fascist on Deep Space Nine. And oh, look, they're playing the cops. I wonder if they're saying anything with that.
That's so wild. Okay,
Gosh, but Jesse, remember back when Star Trek used to be subtle?
Oh, yeah, when it was super subtle, like no politics whatsoever,
This is so wild. Okay. So they do racist cop stuff. They don't believe he works there. They do give him a warning and leave because they get, I forget, summoned somewhere or something like that. Cisco walks off and runs into his dad as a street preacher. He's surprised when the preacher knows his name, as am I suppose. But, we get there eventually. In his noir-ass apartment, things look amazing. And he sits down at the typewriter and starts writing, dun, 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 about Benjamin Sisko. Okay. I'm loving this.
I love that moment too, because he writes Benjamin Sisko looks out the window, and then he looks out his window and he's looking at Ben Sisko.
Yeah, there's a lot.
I just love all
here.
the little match cutty, trickery, back and forth, reflection-y stuff. I love that for TV filmmaking.
Yeah,
at the time,
and his apartment, the like production design of his apartment is so good.
I think art direction was nominated for an Emmy. I don't know if they won, but I know they were nominated.
Okay.
It's also one thing to note for me is the mirror stuff, which I love as a look, is one thing I really love reading in this episode. It's like a trans element of it, because so much of, if you look at trans film, like The Matrix or things like that, the mirror is a very common theme within trans cinema. Of a lot of trans cinema made by cis people is usually, oh, look, a trans person will look in the mirror and be like, oh, I'm dysphoric. Let me look at like how my body doesn't match who I am. Whereas actually many stories directed and made by trans people, the mirror becomes this thing of like something you can go through to become the person that you want to be. So like looking at the person you want to be. And this kind of happens here in 2 different ways throughout the episode, with Benny / Sisko looking at each other through this mirror. So it's just there's like a queer theming to this episode that I'll talk again about later, but I always just love that as a visual motif.
That's very cool. Yeah, I see that. Yeah, because Benny is looking, he wants to just be able to write about this character, about this black captain. He just wants to be able to get his work published writing about him, let alone even imagining himself being him.
Right. We start Act 2. Sisko's walking on the street. I'm loving the doo-wop on the corner. He walks into a diner where, so Cassie, who's Cassidy in the future, got it. Is working. Baseball player comes in. Still, I Andrew at the time still didn't know who that was. Flirts with her, and this is where I write: is he a guy I'm supposed to know? Jake comes in, and I'm loving Jake's energy. I guess he's like a pickpocket or something. And this is my line of the show, where Jake says, "You're writing stories about a bunch of white people living on the moon." I thought that was so funny.
It's an incredible line. It's a line I want to say more often today.
It makes me think of Gil Scott Heron's Whitey's on the Moon too, if anyone knows that. Yeah, it makes me think of that.
And maybe this is partially because this is kind of the person I am, which is I really like the type of person who refers to all sci-fi as being on the moon.
Me too.
It's so weird, but
I love that. The 1953isms where everybody's like, you write a book about a bunch of Martians, or you write a book about white people on the moon. I'm like, I love this. Those are the only two frames of reference you guys had for space back then. I love that vibe.
Let's see. Okay, so we're back at the office. Dax is new, and look, I know this is just like a certain era of Brooklyn accent, but I guess the Batman the Animated Series Harley Quinn has just sort of it's so stuck in my brain that it is impossible not to hear Harley Quinn in that accent. So that's a me
Mr.
problem.
J.
Yeah. It's just there's nothing else to
funny.
do about that.
I hear Audrey from Little Shop of Horrors.
Yeah, there's a million more literate and like better ways to hear that. I'm just saying my poisoned brain, I guess at this point, is just hearing Margot Robbie. And that's a me problem. Okay. I understand that.
Hey, she's great. If we could all have a little Margot Robbie internal monologue going,
or the Harley Quinn show,
would be a more chill place.
It's the Harley Quinn show, I think, is my favorite animated DC thing. Okay,
yeah,
maybe my favorite DC thing. Full stop. Okay, Cisco wrote Deep Space Nine. Perfect. That's basically the upshot of this scene. They have a pretty detailed argument about it. This is where I realize, what is the actor who plays Odo's name?
Rene Auberjonois.
Auberjonois. Okay. This is where I realize the editor is Rene Auberjonois, who sort of lays out the ultimatum: make the captain white or forget about the story. This is where Armin Shimmerman just is. I guess this is where I was like, oh, okay, because Quark is who he is, the mirror version of Quark is like just like an actual factual communist.
Yeah.
Which is pretty
Comrade Quark.
Pretty wild.
We stand.
Everyone else, I will say, this is what sort of threw me though, is that everyone else is actually playing close-ish. Maybe not Odo, but everyone else is.
Well, there isn't like a unified rule for all of them. Well, some of them are playing opposites. Some of them are kind of playing close-ish.
Yeah, which is what Dax is playing opposite, because she's kind of playing kind of Valley Girl-esque.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Well, but that's what I mean is like I think I maybe have been trained to look for, okay, what's the mapping for these types of episodes. So that threw me a little bit. I was like having a little trouble with that. And one of the best
I know they shuttled the parts around a bit, because originally wasn't Armin supposed to play Renee's role?
Oh,
I think
maybe
he was supposed to be the boss, and I think I've just heard Armin say in an interview somewhere that he was happy he got to basically.
Well, that makes
Comrade
more
Quark
sense
instead.
as Quark. Like,
yeah, it also would have been weird to be like, let's have the Jewish actor be the like weird like capitalist guy who's coming down on people, which would read weird in a strange way. The only other note that I had is like they had O'Brien. He is a writer obsessed with robots, and it's just interesting that because O'Brien as a character is so working class coded, and robots are quite often in fiction, going all the way back to like the original Czech play where the word robot comes from. Is always about like working class anxieties quite often. So there's like an interesting sort of parallel there with like what his stories are about and the type of character that O'Brien is, which is very fascinating.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I just thought it was because he's the engineer.
Yeah, that
like,
too.
Sure, he'd
Yeah.
probably like robots.
Maybe a little, yeah. But there is a little like, yeah, it's just sort of like unclear to me what the rule was, and so I guess I'm happy that it seems like there wasn't one.
It doesn't seem like there was a unified rule across the board for people.
Okay. And this is so the next thing, which is we're back at the diner. Jake is talking immense loads of shit, and this is also where I was like, oh, I think I don't have a handle on Jake's character because he grew up on this show. And so I think I may be thinking of earlier seasons of Jake where it's a lot more like he's a little boy. So I think that maybe threw me too. I was like, oh, right.
Yeah, he's definitely playing against type as Jimmy. He is not anything like that.
Okay.
Even as adult Jake, he stays kind of a sweet, soft boy who just wants to be a writer. I actually have a little message from the one, the only Sirach Lofton about his experience on this show.
Far Beyond the Stars was my favorite episode that we did. Mr. Brooks directed it, and he was phenomenal. Everybody was just electric on the set. All the executives were out. The wardrobe was amazing. We filmed on the back lot, and all the details were purposely put in place. Mr. Brooks did all the prep work for the episode as director, and all the details from the piano in the kitchen, Thelonious Monk, to the kind of hat he wore, to the glasses he was wearing. All of those were homages to various influences or styles in the Black community at the time. And I think Mr. Brooks did an exceptional job. I mean, the doors he wanted to be from the Doggone tribe, and he specifically asked for these kinds of doors, and the artwork and the typewriter, all were handpicked by Mr. Brooks. And my performance was, molded and really brought out because of the influence that he had on me. He wanted, me to be playful with the character that I was playing, the street hustler selling watches, and he loved that energy. And I've never seen him so happy when we were doing that episode. And yeah, I did get a chance to say the N-word in that episode, and honestly, I never got any pushback from it. I never even thought twice. Mr. Brooks was on set when we filmed it. He printed that tape, and he wanted that in there for effect. And ultimately, it comes down to, that's the era that he grew up in. He grew up in that kind of bigotry and that kind of racism in that dark period of time in American history. And he wanted to emphasize the kind of resistance that Black people ran up against during those times. And I think it was reflected through Benny Russell's ambition and how he was shot down so many times and underpaid and undervalued. And I think that is it's a beautiful story that science fiction is able to dabble in and talk about. And Mr. Brooks used that Star Trek as a platform to really express the tone of what the civil rights movement was about. And I think it was an exceptional job.
I had to ask him about the N-word.
Yeah.
I was like, who was mad at you? Did anyone push back? Did anyone tell you not to use that take? Tell me everything. So that's why.
That's so interesting.
He answered that.
I didn't know he was that meticulous about like even the typewriter and such. That's so cool.
Yeah.
I also, before we move on, I should also say this is going to be, just because I wouldn't be doing my job as like, actually Trek knowledge, but this is the most cursed I'll ever fucking give on this show. But I do believe in the original series, Abraham Lincoln says a version of the N-word.
Okay, wait. Wait, doesn't he say Negro?
He says the female version of the N-word.
Negress.
Yes.
That's Diet Coke.
Okay.
This is Coke heavy.
Fair enough.
We're not calling it the N-word. This is look. I want my boy Jake to have this crown.
Yeah.
No, I'm fine. I'm not going to contest it. I'm just doing the So I know someone in the comments section is going to be, well, actually, Abraham Lincoln was also racist. So well, I'm doing my most cursed version of this right now.
No, this is perfect because you can do that because I can't look at the comments. So, but this is me telling those people in the comments, those are different words. Don't use any of them. Don't use any of them. But those are very different. And negress to me is very funny when used in the right context. Anyway, look, I want more people to say the N-word in Trek. I tried to make Holly Hunter say it. That's a joke. That's a joke. If you write that in a headline of some sci-fi article, you're corny and you don't understand humor. That was a joke.
This is how far behind I am. I don't realize the baseball player is Michael Dorn until they flash the baseball player into Worf makeup. So Cisco sees Worf. I am like, oh, okay. Cisco leaves in a panic on the street. The preacher freaks him out a little more. He goes back to his typewriter.
Yes. Sorry to pause you again. I know we're woefully behind, but that's okay. This episode deserves it. I bet, though, your experience was very similar to many viewers at the time because they didn't really have the internet like we do now. Maybe they didn't know what everybody looked like out of makeup.
Yeah.
You know, the actors weren't as like in everyone's face as we are now. So I bet a lot of people didn't know it was him.
I think I also just wasn't looking for it at all because I didn't realize it was that kind of episode until, and I'll just say this. This is a me problem because I know it's not. I don't think of Worf as being on DS9.
Yeah.
Well, because you haven't gotten to any of his.
Yeah.
You haven't gotten to his season yet.
So I just don't. I'm just like, oh yeah, oh okay, that's crazy.
But I also will say some of your confusion too. Also, is like for this whole episode is part and parcel. Like I would think people would be like, "What the hell is going on with this episode?" I'm so confused. Is this the prophets? Like Tawny and I have seen the episode, so we're like, yeah, we know what's going to happen. Yeah. But I think like your confusion is not so totally unique to just the fact that you've not seen much of the show.
I also still wasn't positive it wasn't a holodeck hallucination even at this point. Okay. But later that night, he's got more pages. Cassie interrupts him as he's asleep on the couch. He wrote, despite what Odo basically demanded, he wrote another DS9. I'm calling them episodes. They start dancing, and this is where Cisco's popping in and out of present and past. We start Act 3. We are back in the office of the I also didn't catch the name of the magazine.
I don't remember it either, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not important.
I'm loving this because I am not the type of writer that does this, but
Incredible Tales.
Incredible Tales.
Yeah.
Well, Cisco, despite being demanded by his showrunner to not do this, straight up wrote 6 more DS9 episodes. I don't have that kind of I don't know if it's work ethic or speed in me. I'm not doing that.
We all know that writer.
What's that?
We all know that writer.
Yeah.
We all know that writer who was sent
asshole.
off on outline to write one thing and came back with 6 of something he wasn't supposed to do.
But they bat around some options. They kind of go around the horn in a really nice, like classic. This would be a Trek conference room scene, except for we're in the past. O'Brien pitches that the book could be a dream. So which is a little bit. I was having a little bit of trouble contorting my mind around his logic, but it is essentially saying, even though it's science fiction, the magazine is not saying, look, in the future there's going to be black captains. He's pitching the idea that someone in their present, could dream a fanciful tale of a black space station captain. Cisco accepts this. He on the street, he runs into Jake, who's just up to some shit. We're back at the diner. Worf is talking about a baseball game.
Gangbanging.
Yeah, basically.
Hanging.
Worf is talking about the baseball game, and this will be my other. This is me just grasping at straws about things I do know about Cisco. This is by far the least excited I've ever seen that man be about baseball. So I don't buy that. Cisco comes in with the good news. Oh, I should say, so earlier there was a significant amount of conversation about how much the other writers were getting paid. And I believe Quark was getting 4 cents a word, something like that, or Bashir, one of them. And Cisco is celebrating getting 3 cents a word, which is clearly a raise for him, but it's just sort of like a nice bit of commentary on just how everyone is treated in the office.
Yeah, actually, Quark's character is making 4 cents a word, and Julian Bashir remarks on it and says he's getting 4, and they kind of brush past it. But it touches on something I've had a question about in this episode forever, which is that Julian gets to pass as white, and I think it's not within the world of the piece. I think it's for our audience. Like, they just treat Bashir's character as a white British man. I think so that they can more greatly highlight the divide between black and white in 50s America.
Yeah.
But it's just an interesting sci-fi thing to go, okay, we're dealing with race and how it affects these people. His race we're not dealing with, and we're just coding him as white.
Yeah. I kind of think, I mean, it would be too much to unpack, so I see why they did it.
It would be, but it's interesting that they just don't even
try.
explain it away.
Yeah.
They just give him a real foppish British accent and go, this guy's white.
His accent is really... It's turned up to everyone's accent is turned up to 1,000,000.
It reflects like how Deep Space Nine is probably the most diverse Star Trek show, at least of this era. Is one, and then 2 also speaks to like change in time, because like Islamophobia is such a bigger thing nowadays than it was even in the 90s.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Cisco comes in to find Cassie. Good news, story's getting published, 3 cents a word. They're going out. We go to Cisco and Cassie leaving a jazz club. The preacher, Cisco's dad, in the future, comes out of the shadows. And this is where my only note is there's more prophet talk I don't understand. There's a lot of prophets talk. I get that it's important, but it was over my head entirely. Here's my question, though. And I think Jesse sort of answered this broadly already, but I was like, is it weird that this like Star Trek prophet is coming through this like Christian lens? Like, did people have a problem with that? Like, okay, it's kind of all well and good to say like, okay, in the 23rd century, he could be a prophet, but like, you're kind of talking about when you put like whatever the priest collar is on a man, also talking about a prophet, you're talking about a much more small subset of people that I just would think Americans have a big opinion about.
I think it's like my read on this always was just like, okay, we'll have a religiously coded person to like tie in the language of the prophets, and then also like Cisco's dad, and he's a father here, so like father, Cisco's dad, same, like haha, there's a little pun sort of thing there, and then I think so too, like. Because the whole thing with Deep Space Nine, without getting too into it, just like the quick answer it was less about like, it was this idea of faith and how do we respect faith. And so putting him here in a very Christian coded thing, I think is less about like the Christianity of it and just more like the role of faith, and also like how faith has played within many marginalized communities, especially the Black community as well, where that's a large part of like Black history as well. So like it's like evoking that would also be part of it too, I think.
But that's sort of what I mean, is that like, to me, so much of Trek and science fiction in general, and fantasy to some degree, is like using metaphor. So like you could say like the prophet, but it's like the prophet of these people that you've never, they're aliens that you've never heard of, and you don't have to like think about the like earth mechanics of it. And it is sort of similar to like a lot of the race stuff. It's like, okay, we can talk about racism because it's like one type of alien versus another. Yeah, the allegory comes super home when it's like a guy in a priest collar talking about it all of a sudden. I was just wondering if that was like part of the conversation.
Yeah, I don't think I mean, I've never seen it. I just don't think, I think what it is, I don't think people put too much stock in the like one for ones of this episode in that regard. I think in terms of like relating it to necessarily the larger series, in terms of like this, like the prophets are supposed to be like Christian prophets in any specific way. I think it's just sort of like coding it.
I think it's like clearly they're not Christian prophets, but then it's like, then when you put it in this context, I was like, that's I guess to me it's a little bit like I'm realizing now as we're talking, I guess I don't think I've thought of Christians existing in Star Trek.
Neither did Gene Roddenberry.
Yeah, Gene was very against that.
Is that right?
It's pretty secular. Yeah, it's aggressively secular.
Yeah.
And it has been intentionally. This series pushes that the most out of any series.
Okay.
And I would say that, so what Star Trek does a lot, I see what you're saying, Andrew. I think as someone who's watched a lot of Trek, what you start to get used to are these episodes that just get reskinned.
Yeah.
So they just get reskinned to be the Mark Twain era shit. They get reskinned to be, whatever, the James Bond one. And so there's less one for one that's important as it is just like the entire series is kind of putting on a little play in order to affect the main character of that episode in the best way possible.
Mm-hmm.
So the skin of this is just 1953 Jim Crow era Earth, America. And so the preacher is the most logical thing that would make the most sense to deliver it. Yeah. So I think it just becomes like the name of the game is we're putting on this costume on the entire episode.
Yeah, there's the implication that we get usually in Trek is like it's aggressively secular, except for when they like, especially in older Trek, have presumptions of like the normalization of Christianity. So like there's a Christian wedding in one episode of the original series, but it was just like it's non-secular, but because it's Western America, we're gonna make it Christian.
Got it.
Except for more modern Trek has done a good job of like adding, and some older Trek did too. Like the animated series had some indigenous folks. And like Hindi folks, I think too. But like modern Trek has also had like people wearing like different like religious trappings and things like that in the background of things.
Much more importantly to the episode, we hear gunshots. The cops have killed Jake. Sisko runs over there. Is Sisko his dad in this past?
In this past, no.
Okay, he's just like, okay, I just couldn't tell exactly. Not that it matters that much, but he punches the cops. They beat him up. Because they're intercut with Cardassians at this point. So I was like, okay, I finally caught up to that one.
I will say this kind of cuts across what we were just saying too, because like this one draws attention to the fact like they are the fascist characters from the show playing the cops, as I pointed out earlier. But it's one thing it's a hard scene to watch, but it's one that I think is very poignant in the fact that this whole episode is about like who gets to envision the future, who gets to imagine the future, who gets to see ourselves in the future. And we get this killing of this young black kid who is also Sisko's son in the actual version of the story and gets to live there in Deep Space Nine. But here's like this person who should be the future of this community gets murdered by white cops, which is something that happens very much today. And tearing out these sort of future generations of marginalized communities. And yeah, it's just, I think it's a very poignant moment in regards to that.
Yeah, as far as Trek goes too, I was like, this is a hell of a like act blow, like as we see through his POV, and the crowd, we see the crowd reacting to them, like both having murdered Jake and then brutalizing Benny. We go into Act 4 with a time jump where weeks later, I think, Sisko's essentially recuperated. He's well enough to go out. He goes into the office, or he's getting ready to go to the office. Cassie's dressing him up. There's light news. O'Brien sold a novel. Moment of camaraderie before the editor comes back in and basically tells everyone that the entire issue has been pulped because the publisher is racist. He also has ordered him to fire Sisko, and he does. This is where Benny gets his speech, just really talking about how his frustration about, in this instance, it's like sort of the process of like how the racism is affecting his creativity or his like expression. And this is my question, I guess. Like, I feel like, because then he sort of goes into like saying things like Benny is saying Sisko is real. he starts saying
Mhm.
things that like relate to essentially the hallucination that is coming or that has been ongoing in some level. He says he created Cisco with his mind, and I guess again, this is just me from a place of utter ignorance. Felt like that undercut the speech a little bit.
Interesting, because what I always love about that moment, like, and it should be noted too, I'm sure, like many Trekkies will mention, like that's the moment where Avery Brooks literally broke down so much that like on set they had to like call cut and he was still in it, and like the actors had to like pull him out of it because it was such a big moment for him. And the way I always read that scene is, there's the textual thing of like, yes, we know within the canon of this universe, Deep Space Nine is real, but it's also this thing about like imagination from marginalized communities of like who gets to imagine the future. Like there's this whole conversation in this episode of like Cassie is like, oh, I just want to rent this room. I want to like, we just stop worrying about the future. I just want to rent this room. It's like constantly focusing on the now. And we never get to imagine, so many marginalized communities never get this chance to like imagine the future. Like in the queer community, again, why I relate to this episode, like during the 80s and the HIV epidemic, queer people were just not allowed to imagine a future. We were just fighting to survive this moment right now. And so this idea that like Benny Russell as the character has been fighting to imagine a future, and by imagining the future, it becomes real. The only way we can make it a future for marginalized communities is if we imagine it. And so when he says it's real, I created it, he's saying like, it is real, this thing that I have imagined, and you cannot destroy it. And by imagining it, we can still fight for it and still want to make it come into being. Right. And that sort of gets in this whole idea of like what the preacher says in a minute of like dreamer and the dream. You are both the dreamer and you are the dream. You are this person dreaming of this better future. And then you are also the person who embodies that in the future as the character of Cisco, but also like people who move on within marginalized communities and remember the past and the traumas that got them to that point of being able to struggle through and get to a better future. And so that speech always like hits me particularly hard of when he says it's real. It's like, yeah, like these things that we imagine are real. And we fight to try and reach for them. But I'll talk more about later in my supplemental. But
no, that's very well said. I mean, it's pure Afrofuturism. It's pure like so his quote is, you can pulp a story, but you cannot destroy an idea. Don't you understand? That's ancient knowledge. You cannot destroy an idea. That future, I created it and it's real. So piggybacking on what Jesse said about the Cassidy of it all, Cassidy's not only trying to get him to focus this whole episode on the here and now, but that is also her future. She is like, my future is tomorrow, where I'm going to live and what we're going to own and what we're going to do together, and the date you promised me that you slept through because you were dreaming of an even more distant future, which she understands. She doesn't give him shit for, but instead she has to come to him because as a person dating the dreamer, you know, sometimes you have to meet them, and sometimes they miss the future that you've been trying to work so hard on because it's a little too immediate and a little too real, and you got to go find them in dreamland, right? So the him saying it's real, that character, all those people on the space station, if you rewatch the speech and just take it at face value in universe, the episode and Benny Russell are not saying wink wink Deep Space Nine is real. He's talking about the ancient knowledge, the idea. And I interpret it as the moment where Cassie's words and her everything she's been struggling to get him to see the whole episode actually hits home for him too. He's talking about her future as well. That's how I read it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I think I was just like first of all, I had podcaster brain on too much because I was just like trying to like figure out, I guess it's just like how I was reacting or how the characters in his scene were reacting to, because I was just I guess what I was a little bit was like, to me the thing that I think I was missing, it was because this overshadowed it, was like I just didn't like the idea that he like to the people in his time essentially went mad a little bit. I was like, that didn't sit well with me for reasons I'm not really doing a great job of articulating. But that was, I think, the thing I was like focusing on.
That actually, just to say it, there will be a future episode that will touch upon that with this character later on. That'll actually go into like Benny Russell is mad sort of thing.
Yeah.
But what I will say with this episode, it is a difficult episode to jump into because it is. I think this is unique in Star Trek not that Star Trek doesn't do magical realism, but this is the most magical realism episode of Star Trek, where it's just like there's no real like gesture towards like technobabble explanation on this one. It's just this is just a thing that happened, and you just kind of it's more about, not that it's so David Lynchian that it's like all feeling, but it is more about like the feeling of what it's supposed to be, rather than like here's the literal explanation of what's supposed to be going on.
Yeah.
I will also say too, one other thing too that I always found interesting in this point is the connection to the fact that Rene Auberginois like says, "Oh, you can't. We're gonna pulp this story. You can't air it." And it's like that was a thing that was happening then, but it's still so poignant today of seeing so many like studios and places being like, "Oh, we're not going to air queer stories or stories of like Black creators or like these marginalized stories anymore. We're just going to focus on 4-quadrant storytelling." Something we're still very much seeing today.
Back.
Men are back. Men are back.
Men are back. Men are in. Men are back. It's like, oh, how nice for them.
Yeah. Were they ever out? I wish we could have. Yeah.
Okay. No, thank you both for that. It was just one of those things. I was like, I could tell I'm not reading this closely enough, and I'm also just like watching it late at night and trying to just like follow plot. So yeah, I think that all helps me a ton. That makes a lot more sense. Plot wise, Sisko gets transported out by EMS in the ambulance. The preacher's there once again with this Sisko's the dreamer and the dream speech, which is very nice. I'm trying to think. Let's see. And then this is a little bit where he's like flickering in and out of realities. He's back in Starfleet uniform and wakes up back on DS9. We kind of just like blast through the rest of the Trek part of it. He's back to normal. Back in Sisko's quarters, his dad is leaving, wants to know if Sisko's going back to Earth. And Sisko kind of pulls out basically laying out his version of what he just saw, which is just like, what if we are a dream of the man in the 50s? And I think that's, yeah. And I think it's the like, this discussion is helping me understand that conversation a lot more. Cause I was just like, yeah, I don't know. I was having trouble with it. I was like, I think it is like, maybe this is me just starting to get locked into the rules of Trek, because I will just say I genuinely was expecting like essentially the final scene to be like, oh, there was a holodeck glitch.
Yeah, a science reason.
Yeah.
There is no science handwave reason. Two things that I thought of that I don't know that I've ever thought of before on this watch. One was how closely so the question in the cold open of whether Sisko's going to leave Starfleet because he's too beaten down by the war, and then he has this journey, even though he's only unconscious for a few minutes on Deep Space Nine time, but he has this journey, this vision, and then when he comes back, he's recommitted to the effort, basically. I don't know if this was intentional, but it echoes or it mirrors so closely the story that every Trekkie knows about Nichelle Nichols wanting to quit the original series, and Martin Luther King pulling her aside and being like, "You can't quit. We need you. You're incredible." And I know that's a beautiful story, but it also is like, I just think about, God damn, what a heavy load to bear. Like the leader of the civil rights movement shows up and is like, "Hey girl, you can't leave your job. You can't go do a movie. You actually have to stay here."
I've written about this because that people tell that story so often about like, oh yeah, Nichelle Nichols, like Martin Luther King Jr. told her to stay on the show, and she did, and it was great, and the long arc of history continued. And people always forget, if you actually listen to Nichelle Nichols telling that story, she talks about how she was kind of pissed at both of them a little bit.
Sure,
because she wanted to leave Star Trek to go and do like theater and get more acting gigs, and her whole role on Star Trek the show for the most part was like, hailing frequencies open, Captain. Like that was all she got to say. And so like she had to go back, she had this responsibility placed on her, and it was so important. She inspired so many people directly and indirectly, but it was this sort of like, okay, you go be the token on this show, and like Gene Roddenberry gets to like sort of get celebrated as this person of like, you know, I saw the future of Black people in the future, but like she was very tokenized on that show. And it's just like this giving up of a more maybe fulfilling career in terms of the actual work she got to do. Like it's a fulfilling, I'm not want to take away from her, like the importance she did and like the fulfilling nature of that. But like, certainly there was more fulfilling probably acting roles to have done during that time of her career that she didn't get to have. And she tells that story about being a little bit angry, going back into Gene Roddenberry and being like, all right, I guess I won't retire from this.
I would be too, because anytime you, as an artist, when you want to leave a job or when you need to leave a job because it's no longer fulfilling you, regardless of how many lines you get or what things you get assigned to do, if you've decided, because it is not just a skill-based job, not to denigrate any skill-based jobs, but it is a job that you have to feel called to do in order to do your best work as an artist. So at any time an actor or a writer, anyone wants to leave something, to have that pressure put on them to go, no, but you're too important, you should stay.
Right.
I just always wonder if we're thinking about the unfairness of that. So this is a thing I just learned about this year. Andrew, I know we've talked about it on some of the premium shows, but the theory of celestial holography has me obsessed. Jesse, do you know about this?
No.
So it's basically, I'm going to butcher it. Sorry, science heads. Go look up a YouTube video about it where someone smarter than me is talking about it. But it basically is the theory that we are a holographic projection of a 2D surface that is very, very far away, so that the real, quote unquote, real world is actually a flat 2D surface basically on the edge of a black hole that is projecting this 3D holographic world that we all experience. And there's a whole institute that's researching it, trying to figure this shit out to see if we're celestial holograms. And watching the end of this episode where he's looking out the window going, I wonder if Benny Russell's out there dreaming of us. I was like, this is celestial holography in 1997. They just didn't know to call it that.
Yeah, that's so cool, because it makes me think of, have either of you two seen Babylon 5?
No. I feel like in my life I have.
Okay. You two both need to see Babylon 5 because it is one of the best fucking shows of all time. But there's this beautiful scene in there where there's a character, Jakar, who's kind of like this Buddhist kind of style character. And he gives a speech kind of like that of like, we are just like, we mistake reflections on the wall for God, the sort of like Plato's cave sort of thing. And it's like, we sometimes mistake the like light on a wall for truth, when that's not really it. And it's like very Plato's cavey sort of thing, but it makes me think of that same sort of thing of like, we are just projections of something else, something larger. I always love stories of like that, where it's just like I wrote a whole piece, a poetry piece that I've never released, which was just like, all we are just sparks trying to remember that we were all once together. I mean, we were all once, if the Big Bang is true, like one infinite point in space-time that has just slowly been shooting away from each other. And so each one of us is just a person trying to remember that we were also part of each other. And that's why I always love Star Trek for like infinite diversity and infinite combinations. We're all like, again, going back to what we were talking about at the beginning, the universal and the specific. The more we learn about each other, the more we learn about ourselves. And it's something that I always like. So I like that idea quite a lot. That's really cool.
Yeah. That's very cool.
Yeah.
I think this is a great time, if we haven't already cannibalized all of your supplemental log, to acknowledge you've alluded to it, all of the work you've done writing and discussing Star Trek in your very long career on your YouTube channel. Everybody check her out if you're not already subscribed to Jessie Gender. But with respect to the extensive amount of your life you've dedicated to Star Trek, we would love to give you, for your Jessie's Log supplemental, 3 minutes to talk about this episode.
There's this book by my favorite philosopher called Jose Esteban Munoz, and the book's called Cruising Utopia, where he talks about queerness as a philosophy of time, where queer people always sort of see queer people are a timeless sort of entity, in that to be queer means that you are reaching for a time in which we are not queer, where you are reaching for a time where you're not seen as other, seen as different. And by queer, he also points out, it's like queerness isn't just about gay, bi, lesbian, anything like that, trans. It's about desiring to create a future where you are not seen as other or different or marginalized. And so that idea of, he talks about queerness is a horizon. So you're always constantly reaching for something on the horizon, a utopia just out of reach that you want to see yourself in. And that's what this episode kind of does for me, in that like this idea of the dreamer and the dream. Benny Russell is reaching for that horizon, that thing on the future that is where he is not othered, where he gets to just be a part of the world that Sisko is. Sisko gets to be a black captain in the future and gets to, exist as a full person. And yet I also love that it's Sisko dreaming back, and you don't know which one is which, because especially for marginalized communities, our history is so important and often gets erased from us. And Star Trek quite often tends to just be like, yeah, and everything's great now. And we don't necessarily look at the unique histories of marginalized people that really mattered to have brought people there. And Sisko as a character thread, all of Star Trek constantly is like, hey, I'm uncomfortable with this because Black people were not treated. There's like episodes where he's like, Black people were not treated okay in the past in this context. And so it's this constant like echoing back and forth of time of how there's this constant conversation between these two things of, Star Trek is supposedly this better future, but not everyone gets to enter that future unscathed. Like, many white people do, many cis people do, many straight people do. And so I always love this episode for that constant, like we're reaching for that future, we're reaching for that horizon. And yet we're still also tied to the past and our traumas of the past. And just to go to the imagery of that mirror that we were talking about that ends the episode, where he looks in the mirror and sees the reflection of himself. Again, the trans element of what I always was talking about earlier is like, if you watch any trans film, like any movie made by a cis person, you'll have a trans person looking in a mirror and be like, oh, I look gross. Any movie written by a trans person, they will look at a mirror and reach through the mirror or touch the mirror or desire the mirror, like Matrix, where Keanu Reeves literally goes through the mirror, directed by trans people, that movie. And it is this seeing the person you want to become on the other side of the mirror. And Sisko sees Benny, Benny sees him, and it's this constant reflection across time to each other. And they both are reaching for each other. And so they're both the dreamer and the dream. I love this episode. This to me is like the keystone episode of Star Trek, and I love it so much. So, yeah.
I do want to
Anyways, thank you for my TED Talk.
No, it's amazing. That's what you're here for.
Yeah,
we love it.
The Matrix and Magic Mirror a couple times. Now I kind of want to reread that portion of The Invisibles too, because I don't think that is how it's portrayed in The Invisibles, which is like fits really well with this thesis too.
Yeah. With cis people, it's like so many like I'll say it's like not just cis people, the non-marginalized people. There's always this element of looking at an other. So like the male gaze in cinema of like men look at women as object, cis people look at trans people as object, white people look at Black people as object rather than as person. Whereas you get art from marginalized people, there's this constant awareness of the person that they are looking at is also a person rather than an object, and this constant bouncing off of each other. And you see that with mirrors as a way to sort of symbolize that in a lot of art.
And I should say, that was not meant to shade towards Grant Morrison. I don't know. I don't remember The Invisibles well enough. I just remember, I think you're right. It's just that they're just, the devices are used in different ways between them.
We stand Grant Morrison, non-binary monarch. We love them.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it is time to rate the episode before we go. Thank you guys for sticking around. This has been a good long one. I'm gonna go ahead and give it 5 episodes my showrunner didn't ask for out of 5. How about you, Andrew? What's your rating?
For me, I probably have to like not take it away, but just my own personal experience is probably closer to a 4.5 because there were so many. I don't know. This is not. It's not like a review. Yeah. I'm just saying, like, as a out of context stranger, I found this was like a really difficult episode. I was just like, I don't know who anyone is. And I'm not totally clear on it's not that I wasn't clear on what's being said. I just wasn't clear what I was missing, I think. And that makes you feel really unmoored from the thing. So I think it was probably just worth, eventually I'll rewatch it and just know more about both the context and the underlying what's being said.
How about you, Jesse?
This is one of my favorite episodes of Star Trek, like top 5. So I will give it 5 praying mantis going for a sexy woman image out of 5.
Oh yeah. What was that called? Honeymoon on Andoria?
Yeah, something like that. Andromeda? Yeah. It's one of the arts that is just drawn in this episode. I love that. Yeah.
Amazing.
All right, so our episode for next week, we're watching Voyager Season 7, Episode 20, Author. Do we need to warn Andrew about anything in this one? Not warn, but do we need to prep him for anything?
Doctor is a hologram, and his crew doesn't like giving him rights. That's really about all you don't. That's all. I don't think I
would have clocked that. I knew he was a hologram. Okay.
Yeah, there's questions.
Hopefully this isn't confused in the Paramount Plus. Hopefully it's not episode swapped with the one where Janeway's fucking a romance novel.
Listen, my only request genuinely is I want to watch the tiny ship one, whatever it's called, One Little Ship.
We'll watch. It's genuinely a very good episode.
It's very fun.
I can't wait.
Ship.
All right.
Yeah. That's all we have for you. Check out our other pods at suboptimalpods.com. Come to the Sci-Fi Sisters dinner. If you've listened this far, you must, like me, come sit next to me and eat mashed potatoes. That's all I got. Live long, prosper. Starter Trek is produced by Jesse Earl, edited by AJ McKeon, with original music by Jay Israelson. For bonus episodes like Andrew and Tawny's Hangout Show, Yo Can We Live, movie watch-alongs, and even more Trek pods, visit suboptimalpods.com. It's the optimal place to subscribe to Andrew and Tawny's podcasts. This podcast is a production of Fine Alpinist Ranch, an artist-run film and media studio building community in the desert. To learn more or become one of our ranch hands, visit finealpinistranch.com.